Software Engineering Radio Episode 35 Roadmap and Programming over the Winter. Welcome everybody to this out-of-band episode of Software Engineering Radio. In this episode I mainly want to tell you about the great new stuff we have coming up over the next couple of months. But before we do that, I'd like to ask you to help us, not by giving us money, but rather by helping us make SE Radio more widely known. The feedback we get from you through email, through comments on our website or at the comments page at Podcast LA is really great. So this tells us that people who know Software Engineering Radio will most likely like it. The problem is that we think that still not enough people have heard about SE Radio, so we'd like you to help us there. So I'd like to make a couple of suggestions how you could help us to make us more widely known. One way is to add more votes and comments at Podcast LA. Currently we have 38 votes. We have many thousands of listeners. So, you know, if maybe every other listener would give us a vote, then we'd have a couple of thousand votes, and that would be really something. 38 is not so impressive compared with some of the other podcasts. Another way how you could help us is, of course, by telling your friends. I think you do that already. So just continue doing that. However, you could also, scale this telling your friends up a little bit. For example, if you know the editors of some kind of news or Java or technology related website, you might be able to put us in contact with these people so we could discuss with them whether they would like to point their audiences to SE Radio. After all, we're not a competition to any typical website or news service. Another way you can help us is by writing a little piece of text, a little article for computer magazines, especially non-English speaking magazines. For example, if you live in Greece, you might want to write a couple of lines of information about SE Radio in some Greek developer magazine. Obviously, we can't do that ourselves because we don't speak Greek. So we have kind of, taken a look at the German news magazine market, and we have arranged a couple of things there, but we can't do much outside of Germany because we don't know the people very well. So you could help us there also. So if you want to do us a favor, help us in one of the ways I just outlined, or do something else to make SE Radio more widely known, and that'll be really great. So thanks for that. Okay, so let's get to the main reason for this episode. I wanted to tell you about some of the upcoming episodes. At the JAU conference in Aarhus in Denmark, as well as at UPSLA 2006 in Portland, Oregon in the US, I've recorded a couple of very interesting interviews, and also we've been producing a number of very cool episodes within the team. And I'm going to tell you which these are, so you know what you should do about the winter time. If you can't go out and do reasonable things outside, you probably have to listen to podcasts. So we're going to provide you with a lot of good stuff you can listen to. So the next episode we're going to have is actually going to be one of our highlights. We've got an interview with Guy Steele. Guy Steele is a research fellow at Sun. He's a really big name in the language design community. He has, been very involved with Lisp, and in this discussion in this episode, he'll talk about Fortran, a new programming language that should replace Fortran. A very interesting episode. We'll then also have 2 episodes on extreme programming coming up. These are team internal episodes by Arno and Alexander. Another person we're going to have as an interview partner is Steve Winoski. He is one of the really well-known names in the middleware community. He has implemented, 6 or 7 Corbar orbs, so he's a real a real authority there. We'll then have another episode on architecture, our part 4, before we are going to look at very large-scale architecture, because we're actually going to talk to the CTO of Amazon, Werner Vogels. He was kind enough to give us an interview at JAU talking about scalability and other issues, if you build systems at the scale of Amazon. We then have an episode about design by contract, the stuff that has been implemented in Eiffel. We then have something about safety critical systems, technical issues, as well as some discussion about the development process, and we'll come up with our first episode on product line engineering. Later then we'll have an interview with Lawrence Stratt. He is working for, I think, King's College in London. I hope I didn't screw that up. I always mix this up with University College, and I never know where he is, and if I mention the wrong one, he's probably angry with me, but okay. So I think it's King's College. And he's going to talk about implementing domain-specific languages using compile-time metaprogramming. Another one of these language conceptual episodes. I think those are really great. Then we have an interview with Gregor Hoppe. He will talk about messaging, enterprise application integrations, process orchestration, and these kinds of things. Another really interesting topic is architecture analysis and evaluation with Dragos Manolescu. Another interview we recorded at the JAU conference. We also have an interview with Obi Fernandez about implementing DSL in Ruby. So another dynamic languages thing coming up. But that's not all. We have more. We have an interview with Brian Getz and David Holmes, the authors of this new Concurrency in Practice book. Java Concurrency in Practice, actually, about advanced topics in concurrency. It's not going to be Java specific. We have an interview with Jonathan Aldrich, and he's going to talk about static analysis tools. Morgan Dieters will talk about compiler construction and the internals of the GNU C compiler GCC. We'll have a roundtable discussion about product line engineering and model-driven development recorded at the Product Line and Model-Driven Development Conference in Leipzig in October 2006. We have a discussion with Steffen Schäfer. He will talk about sensor networks, wireless software, mobile software, and these kinds of things. And finally, we have a roundtable discussion about ultra-large-scale systems with Linda Northrop, Doug Schmidt, Gregor Kisales, and Kevin Sullivan. So these are the things we have already recorded. We are currently in the process of recording more stuff. For example, we'll have 2 episodes on refactoring. We'll have stuff on aspect orientation and so on and so on. We also signed up a couple of very, very interesting people for additional interviews, but I will stay with my policy of not announcing the names of these interviewees until we have recorded the interview, for the obvious reasons, because it's always actually hard to schedule these things. It's not that people don't want to give us interviews. It's more like, getting together and finding a time slot where everybody has time. And by the way, the order of the announcements in this episode is not significant. So I might change the order, and I also might inject additional stuff in between or rearrange things. But this is the stuff we have, on the hard disk. It will be podcasted at some point during the winter. I hope this gave you a reasonable impression of what the winter on SE Radio will look like. Please give us feedback. Let us know what you liked, which topics you'd like to hear. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, please help us advertise SE Radio. We have so much cool stuff. I think it's cool if more people can listen to it and will know about SE Radio. Okay, that's all for today. Short episode. Thanks for listening, and hear you in a couple of days with the interview with Guy Steele. Bye. Thanks for listening to Software Engineering Radio. If you want to get more information about Software Engineering Radio, or if you want to give us feedback, please go to our website at se-radio.net. You can also contact the team at team@se-radio.net. se-radio.net, although we prefer entries in our comments system on the website so other people can see what you think. Software Engineering Radio wants to thank Henning Pauli for the intro and outro music, as well as Libsyn for providing the bandwidth. This episode of SE Radio, as well as all other episodes, is licensed under Creative Commons license. See the Software Engineering Radio website for details.